This is a sports catastrophe production. Hey there, hi there, ho there. It's Jeff Cutter Diamond welcoming you to another sports catastrophe birthday boy. And the birthday boy for today, January the 2nd, is a former Cy Young Award winner who played for 5 teams from 1986 to 2003. He was a right-handed pitcher. He's actually a color commentator for the New York Yankees on their broadcasts now that Ken Singleton's on from the business. But he pitched a perfect game in 1999. He struck out 19 batters in a very meaningless game in 1991, tied for second most ever. He won the Cy Young in 94. He was a decent player and part of 5 titles, 5 title teams. Only one of them, all but one with the Yankees. He is David Cone. So David Cone went through a couple of tryouts with the Royals and Cardinals. Upon graduation from from high school, he went to the University of Missouri. It was drafted by his hometown Kansas City Royals in the 3rd round of the 1981 MLB draft. Cone was pretty good in the minor leagues. He would be turned into a relief pitcher for a few times out of the pen for the Royals before going back to AAA Omaha. But strange as it sounded, in 1987, the Royals didn't know what to do. So they traded him to the Mets for Ed Hearn and a few nobodies. It was Cone for Hearn. Well, the Royals wanted a backup catcher, and Ed Hearn fit the bill. Cone didn't do that well in his first season, 5-6 with a 3.71 ERA. However, he was a bullpen guy. But then he was added to the starting rotation by the first week of May. He had a complete shutout over the Braves. And he did well. First half of the season, he was 9-2. But the second half, he went almost unbeaten. He was 11-1. Cone was 20-3 to finish 3rd in NL Cy Young balloting. A lot of people said that David Cone could get 20 wins because, the National League hitters didn't know who he was. The Mets ran away with the NL East and looked like they were going to crush the Dodgers. After all, in 11 games with the Dodgers, they won 10 of them. Cone would become a newspaper commentator for the New York Daily News while he was playing, and had controversy after the Mets beat the Dodgers, saying that Earl Hershiser was lucky for 8 innings ripping Jay Howell. Unfortunately, LA used the bulletin board material to crush Cone in Game 2, jumping on him for 5 runs. Thankfully, though, he got a win in Game 6 after getting rid of the newspaper article. Unfortunately, Hershiser in Game 7 shut out the Mets. And it was Dodgers A's. Anyway, Cone did okay and all that. He was the co-ace alongside Dwight Gooden. And he was the NL strikeouts leader in 1991. Cone would wear number 17 to honor Keith Hernandez in 1991. And in the season finale, he struck out 19 Phillies batters in a 7-0 3-hit shutout. His 19 strikeouts was behind Roger Clemens' effort of 20 at that time, of course. Because you do realize that, this is 91. Since then, Kerry Wood, Roger Clemens again, Randy Johnson, Max Scherzer hit 20 strikeouts. Cone was great for the Mets in 92, but the Mets were sucking at when it counted in the win-loss column. So they traded Cone to Toronto for Jeff Kent and Ryan Thompson. The move actually worked out well. Kent was decent for the Mets before they got rid of him to San Francisco, and he was a star second baseman and a bit of a cunt. Anyway, the Blue Jays got David Cone, which was amazing that the Jays could do that. Yes, they got him in August because of the non-waiver trading deadline, but Cone was done for. Cone was decent with Toronto, 4-3 with a 2.55 ERA. He actually led the major leagues in strikeouts, even though he played for two teams. So Cone was going back to the postseason with the Jays winning the AL East. The Jays took care of the A's in the ALCS, and then, of course, the Braves in the World Series to give Cone his first World Series ring. Cone went 1-1 in the postseason. I believe in Game 2, he was the first pitcher in nearly 2 decades to get a pair of hits in a World Series game because, they play in the National League thing that no DH at the NL parks. Well, once free agency hit, Cone decided to come back to Kansas City and improved himself. He went 16-5 with a 2.94 ERA in '94 to win the AL Cy Young. So it looked good for Kansas City. Like a trip back to Kansas City worked. However, after the strike ended, the 91st strike ended, the Royals decided to trade Cone back to Toronto for Chris Steins and a pair of nobodies. Cone was 9-6, but the Jays were terrible. So before the trade deadline in '95, the Jays decided to dump him to the Yankees for 3 prospects who all were terrible prospects. So he went to the Yankees and all that. However, Cone became the team's ace and would be 9-2 with the Yankees, getting the Yankees into the wild card. They actually were left for dead, but they pulled it out to get the wild card spot. Cone won Game 1 against the Mariners in the ALDS. And in Game 5, he was pitching well, but in the 8th inning, Ken Griffey Jr. hit a home run to right field for his 5th of the series, which tied the postseason record for home runs in a series with Reggie, who did that in the '77 World Series. And then the wheels fell off. Cone was giving up hits at left, right, and center, and stupid Buck Showalter did not pull Cone when he had to, because Cone was fatiguing over 140 pitches and all that. I mean, that was a terrible move by Showalter's move. So Cone left with the game tied at 4, and the Mariners won that game on Edgar's double. But the Yankees did re-sign Cone in the offseason to a 3-year contract. He was looking good, but he got in '96, but he had an aneurysm in his arm and basically was on the DL for a while. However, he came back and did well for himself, helping the Yankees win their first World Series title in 18 years at that point. He had a good performance in Game 3 of the World Series against the Braves. Cone ended up winning 20 games in 1998, setting the major league record for longest span between 20 win seasons at 11, because he was a 20-win guy in 1988, and then 1998 he won 20. Cone actually won the clinching game against the Rangers in the ALDS and the ALCS clinching game against the Indians. Anyway, Game 3 of the World Series. So he would resign again and go on 12-9. Not a really good effort by David Cone, to say the least. However, one game stands above all else, and that was the perfect game he pitched on July 18th, 1999 against the Montreal Expos, making it the first, I believe it was the first no-hitter in interleague history, and it became a perfect game. I was actually at a game on July 18th, 1999, but not in New York, in Toronto, as the Braves took on the Jays, and it was a tight 3-2 affair for the Jays. I always say it's 2-1, but I'm wrong. It's 3-2. Regardless, this was amazing. The David Cone perfect game happened when Yogi Berra agreed to return to Yankee Stadium after leaving the organization for a long time because of Steinbrenner's interference. Yogi caught the first pitch from Don Larson. Oh, too. It was amazing, all that. Unfortunately, Cone had a bad 2000. He was 4-14. Cone only faced one batter. Then he went to Boston to pitch for the Red Sox. He did decent. He was 9-7. he would actually be the loser in a match against the Yankees at Fenway Park. That saw Mike Mussina become one strike from completing a perfect game before Carl Everett's single. It would have been funny. Cone would have been the first pitcher to pitch a perfect game, but then lose and be the losing pitcher in another. He tried to come back with the Mets. He actually won a game with the Mets, but he decided to retire. So Cone was okay. 21st all time in strikeouts. So, and he got 19 strikeouts. That's pretty good. So he became a color commentator on the Yes Network. All that. So, he looked good and all that. So yeah, Cone was married to an interior designer and had a son, and then they divorced in 2011. But now his partner is a real estate broker and they have a son. So anyway, Cone was actually accused of rape in 1991, as 3 women said that he threatened their lives at the ballpark. All that. Anyway, they were pretty much unsuccessful, so they failed miserably. That's the way it should be with David Cone. Cone had baby. Anyway, I'm Jeff Diamond. I do.